Hello, welcome all my aspiring authors and entrepreneurs. Welcome to I Wrote That with your host, myself, Larissa Sowen. I'm here as your coach and ghostwriter, and I'm here to introduce to you Julia Weaver. She is an author, leadership coach, motivational speaker, and skilled facilitator equipped with her MSED and certifications as a professional coach, executive leadership coach, UMAP coach, and disaster recovery coach. She's really a one-stop shop to meet the needs of an array of diverse individuals, teams, and organizations. Beginning her career as a Division I college basketball coach, she began to hone her coaching muscle. Her extensive background in coaching, basketball, and leadership led to the book she wrote titled Hoopspeak, The X's and O's of Leading Through the Language of Basketball. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you so much, Larissa. I'm happy to be here with you today.
Tell us all about Hoopspeak. What is it? What do you do with it? Every fun detail.
Wow, that's pretty wide open. Well, I decided to write a book on two things that I know best, or at least I feel like I know best, which is basketball. Well, you mentioned that I was a college basketball coach, so I was a player and a basketball coach. So I believe that I know basketball very well, and I love leadership. I've been in leadership positions probably most of my life. I guess as the oldest child, so I started my leadership journey there. And then, through sports, I was always a leader, captain or that type of thing. And then when I went into positions in organizations and, different places that I worked, I was, pretty quickly promoted into leadership positions. So I believe that I do have a great handle on leadership. And so I decided to mash the two together and create a book that is basically the fundamentals of leadership. So I do think that it's great for new leaders, especially, just basically going from a individual contributor, new leader, just somebody who's really starting out as in the leadership positions or as a new leader, to gain the fundamentals of that. And I use the terminology or the concepts of basketball to explain those leadership concepts. I felt like people use a lot of sports analogies in their work and in their everyday conversation. You hear, well, currently I'm hearing words like pivot or a timeout or a full court press or rebound. All those terms really fit into leadership, I believe. So I just use those terms and tried to explain leadership in simplistic terms that way. So that's how Hoopspeak came about. And then the develop your X's and O's is about the leader developing their own strategy for becoming the leader that they need to be.
Awesome. Just awesome. And I think when you, and I'm maybe putting words in your mouth here, but you have picked such a niche leadership, but in the language of basketball. You knew who you were talking to when you started writing this book. Can you tell us a little bit about what it took to get you to that? Like, did you do, reader identification up front so that did you do any work that way, or did you just inherently know this is who I was talking to?
No, I really didn't. I mean, if you'd asked me a few years ago or told me that I was going to write a book, I would have laughed in your face because this was not in my plan. It was kind of a whim with COVID. I had so much free time on my hands, more free time, I guess, not so much, but more free time. And I just decided to utilize it that way. And I've had these notes. I have what's called a philosophy box. So I had these notes and I had this information, and I don't know, just one day I started writing on this whiteboard and just everything came to me. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to write a book. Why not? So
why not?
No, I did not do research, but I know that basketball is a universal language, I feel like. And I just thought that it would be a simple way to talk about leadership, at least in a way that maybe people could understand.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so important in the nonfiction realm. And you mentioned it earlier. You said the two things I knew best, and you brought them together. When you're writing in the nonfiction space, what was it like to merge those two worlds together? Did it come very easily? How did you do it? Did you share stories? What did you do?
I asked a lot of people a lot of information. So I went to my people. I went to my former players, former coaches, people in my life, former leaders, and just asked a lot of questions like, how do they see leadership in basketball aligning? And then so I got a lot of their ideas from that, just to get some ideas about what other people thought. I mean, I had the ideas in my head, but I'm kind of a simple writer. Like the people say that my book sounds like I'm talking to them in like a podcast. So it's I'm talking to the person because I ask a lot of questions in the book. And there's also, which is different than probably a lot of books, I added journal pages within the book. So not only do I ask questions after each of I put it in quarters instead of chapters to stimulate or emulate, a basketball game. So after the quarters, I ask questions and then give pages with prompts to help people again develop their strategy, develop their X's and O's with that.
Mhm.
So I had a lot of help, honestly, with just talking to people and figuring that out. But as far as stories, there are a few stories in there, just a few from my experiences as a college player or in the leadership realm. And the very final story, actually, which is really cool, is from a former CIA person, and he brought it all together for me. So I think people will love the last story.
That's very cool. Very cool. And your book is published both um, physical copy and ebook. And there's a story around the ebook there. Why don't
There
you
it is.
share that?
Yeah, so I started with a paperback, so I launched in March of 22, so it'll almost be a year. And I just thought I'm just going to do a paperback. I'm not going to worry about an ebook. I think it would be hard to have an ebook with the journal pages. So for me, it didn't make sense to do an ebook at the time. But then the more I launched it, the more I talked to people. People wanted an ebook because people read on their Kindles or they're reading on their, whatever machines they have that are, they prefer that. People don't always like a physical book. And so when I got ready to write or to publish it, I wasn't able to use the format that I had when I got ready to put it to transfer it into an ebook. So I had to find the Word document, which of course was like long lost because I had somebody format it. So I had to find the Word document, and I basically had to rewrite the book in a Word document. So it's 200 to some pages minus the journal pages, so probably about 180 or 90 pages that I had to rewrite. I had to take out the journal pages, of course, and then I had to take out all the information that said right on the journal pages. So basically, I had to rewrite the book to turn it into an ebook. So for those of
Mhm.
you that are thinking about an ebook, please, think about that from the beginning that you may want to do that because that was definitely a lesson learned.
Do it intentionally. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's so common for authors nowadays to have the vision of book and ebook. They just kind of go hand in hand at this point. But I have a similar, you know, vibe to my book that just came out in December, How to Write a Book, Memoirs and Autobiographies, because it's a workbook as well, just like yours. It asks questions and then it gives space for answers, which is for a nonfiction coaching style book is very popular to do that because it really helps your readers cement in what they've been reading, what they've been learning, and help them apply it. So my book is the same. My physical book has, lines to write on, but
Yes.
the ebook, that doesn't make sense. So I, like you, have two versions of the same file. I took out, it still has the questions and the reflection time, but it
Yes.
doesn't have the lines to write, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that is a very good cautionary tale, maybe
Yeah.
for aspiring authors, just to do it intentionally and be okay with the fact that you might have two versions of the same file, depending
Yes.
on your style. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So what kind of, you mentioned that writing a book was never part of your journey, not part of your path that you had planned for yourself anyways.
No.
what would you say to yourself looking back now?
Mm. Oh, I probably would have written it a lot sooner. I think because of just where I was in my life, but maybe I didn't have time then. I really don't know. But I would say, organize yourself and start writing the book. Once you have the idea, or if you even think you want to write a book, then, just start writing it down. Because once I got moving, I was moving. I wouldn't even say that I had what people call writer's block. The only thing that challenged me was my conclusion, trying to figure out when to end it and
Mhm.
how to end it. And because like I said, one of those stories came, or when I asked people in my world to share stories, this person did send something, the CIA person did send something, and it really made sense that this be the ending, like how it all came together in his story that he shared. So that helped me with the conclusion of that. But I would
Mhm.
just encourage people to, if they've got notes or they've, always wanted to write it, then just, start writing. I use a whiteboard. I had this vision, kind of a vision board, if you will, of all the things that, I wanted to include in there. So I don't include like slang, like slam dunk and, some of those things. So it's real like fundamentals of basketball, like a pass, assist, rebound, box out, like it's all the fundamental words. Um, so now that I've gotten it out, I actually want to do some more because I feel like I left out a couple of things. So I'm toying with a new book, a second edition, or booklets. So I don't know if you have
Mm.
any advice on that. But that's where I am right now and what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I don't have any advice. And I think that it's because it's so unique. Like a second edition is if you want to add bits and pieces here, make, maybe
Mhm.
add a new story or twist it around. But a second book is it's either build on theory or new theory.
Mm.
So I guess it depends on what you're going to do with it,
Yeah,
right?
I don't think I
What
have
you,
enough for a new, unless I went a whole different direction. I feel like I
Mhm.
pretty much got all the things in there. I did miss a couple of things people have, after people have read it and thought, well, what about this and what about that? And some things I've gone, yeah, that would probably work, and some I've gone, no, I won't. I probably wouldn't include that. So then I was thinking about maybe just small little booklets out of it with just one topic, but I don't know. We'll
Mhm.
see. We'll see what comes up. I'm saving that for I'm letting it go a year and then I'm gonna decide what I want to do after
There you go.
after March. So
Yeah. And like you said, keep your whiteboard notes so that you don't lose any
yes,
of it.
that's
Yeah.
what I have. I have it up. Yes, I have my whiteboard up now with
Good.
what I would do, like small booklets. And if it's even enough for like a second edition, I don't know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that's really interesting. When it comes to nonfiction series, like when you're talking in series, is a little bit different because it's unlike fiction, it's a little bit, it's not such a continuation of the story. It's usually a different version of the story or a new story,
true.
right? Or new methodology or whatever it is that you're introducing in your book. But that's very interesting. So there might be another book in your future.
There might be another book. People want it. I don't. Yeah, they're trying to talk me into it, but they want to do it me to do a coaching book. But I just, God, coaching is so huge. I don't even know where I'd begin. So
Mhm.
I don't know.
But you do use your book in your business, in your coaching business. How do you integrate the two of them?
Yes, actually, well, I created a course out of the book. So taking those fundamentals out of the book and then turning it into basically a small workshop. Now, the two audiences that I've used so far, I've been coaches, actually athletic coaches. So I did kind of twist it a little bit to get that basketball audience a little bit more. So I had two different courses. One was for the coaches, like head coach, assistant coaches, and then one for the student athletes. So they both were getting the same information, but the coaching part was more in depth about becoming a coach and developing the X's and O's. And then the one for the athletes was just the concepts of it for like captains or, people, anybody can be a leader, I think. People on the team are leaders in different ways. So I just took things out of it. So it's a shorter course, but that way they can all talk the same language, which is one of the goals of the book, which was leadership through the language of basketball. So if people are talking the same language, I think it builds that bond and camaraderie. So that's really one of the reasons that I created that. So if everybody on a team, and we're even talking a basketball team or any kind of team or a work team, if they're, saying, "Oh, who did you give an assist to today?" They all know what that means. If a work group, reads the book, then they can all talk the same language. We all have our own languages in lots of organizations. There's slang or acronyms or whatever. So that's how I thought about the book in that way, that, creating that a common language builds camaraderie.
So you used your book as a framework for your courses. That's really cool. And that's what I find with a lot of the clients I serve, whether they have programs already. Typically, after they write the book, they end up revising the programs because the book reveals something new or teaches in a different way or whatever the case might be. It's a huge, asset to your coaching journey, your coaching business. Do you use your book as a qualifier in any way, shape, or form? Like the clients that come through your coaching program, do you ask that they read the book first, or is it included in your program, or do you use it anyway that way?
It's included in the program. Actually, I don't send it out beforehand. I go over the concepts and, all of the pieces of the book. But currently I don't have them read it beforehand. Maybe something to consider though. Maybe in the future to really pull out of the book. Now I have a couple of book clubs, that I've done online. So they've read the book, but as far as like my coaching business or my, facilitation of the courses, I've just talked about the fundamentals, and then I offer the book as part of their, I guess, registration. So they walk away with the book because there's a lot more things in the book than I actually teach in the course.
Yeah. As there usually is.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
book is,
You got to leave them, a little bit want a little bit more, right?
That's right. Yeah. You cover so much ground in a book that you don't. And that's the nice part about a book is our programs are, they're good, they're robust, especially if you have pre-recorded videos and stuff. You're guaranteed to say the same thing every time. But in the live courses, the one-on-one, you might miss things, right? Because they don't, somebody didn't ask that question, so it didn't come up this time. Whereas your book, you are like, as the writer, you're sitting with it for a long time. So you're thinking about it from all the different angles and you're putting in all these different details that the reader now gets to enjoy, for a longer period of time than we might be with them in the coaching environment.
Absolutely. Great point.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really great. That's really great. Well, do you have anything else to mention to our listeners, our potential authors, our established authors, anybody that might be listening? Words of wisdom.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, wow. I guess there's that saying that if you don't see what you're looking for out in the world, like you're looking up a book and you don't see it, then write it. I think that's the biggest thing that I got out of it. I looked to make sure that I wasn't copying something else, that there was not a book. Now there's books on leadership and there's books on basketball and there's books about leadership written by basketball coaches. And there's a lot of that out there. But as far as using the terminology for basketball to explain leadership concepts, I could not find it. Now, whether it's out there, maybe in this world, or somebody who's listening, maybe you have found it. But I would say, if you don't see something out there that you want, then write it yourself.
I love that. That is a golden nugget right there, because I think as coaches, we get into this business because we wholeheartedly believe we have a way of doing things that's going to work for people. It's not going to work for everybody, but it's going to work for somebody. And as authors, I think sometimes we get held up in the fact that who's going to want to read my book? Like, there's nobody that's going to want to read my story that's going to, do this. But my kind of rebuttal to that is, if you had picked up this book 2 years ago, 3 years ago and read it, how would it have changed your life?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because your story will resonate with somebody. There is a
Yes,
reader for your book.
I believe so too. And I have definitely found through this journey is that my book is not for everybody. Some people get excited about it and then they start it and they're like, no, this is not for me. I thought it was a basketball book, or I thought it was a leadership book, or I thought it was this or that. And that's okay because
Mhm.
I wrote it for the people that I know are going to get something out of it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Julia. It was a pleasure speaking with you.